Hey guys, this is Todd from AD 2020, and you're listening to Bruce on Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Are you getting this heat wave as well?
We are. It's brutal, isn't it?
It's been brutal. Holy cow. I like heat and I like heat and I like summer, but this has been really hot.
Yeah, no, it's luckily the pool is good and I have good air conditioning. So
yeah, excellent.
We're doing okay.
Well, cool. Thank you for taking the time to do this last second and early. My day was booked.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I guess we could just jump right in if you want. How did AD 2020 come about? Because it's sort of like a who's who of musicians.
Yeah, it's a fun project. So last year, I think around May of last year, I had a conversation with Dan Reed from Dan Reed Network, and I've known those guys for a long time. Melvin, Brandon, the bass player, probably 30 years. I've seen the band before they even had a record deal.
Right.
And Dan and I have been good friends for probably, a good 10 years, probably or so. So during a phone call with Dan about some other business, I recognized that, hey, a lot of people are home and are available. And I just asked him point blank, I'm like, look, I'd love to do an album. Are you interested in working with us? Are you interested in writing songs with us? And he said, yeah. And then, the first question was, well, who are we going to get to play guitar? Who are we going to get to play bass?
Right.
And I had met Greg Smith from Ted Nugent's band Tyketo and Alice Cooper. I had met Greg probably about a year and a half prior. So he was on my radar. I just loved his playing. I loved the energy that he brings to all the projects that he's involved with. And, that's kind of how Greg came on board. I called him. And then Ron Bumblefoot Thal, I had kind of the same deal. I had met him previously and had been listening to his solo records during the pandemic quite a bit. And I was just blown away by his acoustic stuff that he was doing. His production, his arranging, his singing. And I thought, wow, if I can get him to play on this is going to be, really cool. And I told Dan, I said, I want to get Bumblefoot. He looked at me like, wow, that's a tall order. Let's see if we can make that happen. And so over the course of a couple months, a few different phone calls, to Ron and to everybody involved, we pieced it together. And that's kind of how it came together. It was just one of those things I felt like, a lot of people are home. Good timing to do this. Good timing to give back, as well. So.
And Ron is one of the nicest guys I think I've ever met in my life. I've done a lot of stuff with him over the years, but he is incredibly nice and gracious.
Everyone says that. And I mean, yeah, it's, and it's so true. I mean, he's been really terrific to work with. Obviously, he's been a, friend, mentor, business partner, on the project. So yeah, I couldn't ask for better people.
So what is the writing process for you guys like? I'm assuming you're all over the place because obviously everybody's not Pennsylvania. So you taking advantage of like the internet and sending stuff back and forth?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we, for the Lockdown Diaries album, we started that process like probably last June. And Mark McNally, who is my musical partner and a couple other things, he and I, had discussed doing this album probably the year before. We wanted to do some sort of original project, and this was the right time. And so we started off with, I knew Mark had a backlog of some songs, lyrics and stuff that he had written, and so that's how it started. We brought in a couple of Mark's songs. He did Ricochet, that was primarily his. But it's interesting for the writing and song credits and publishing and all that, we kind of went the Lennon McCartney route with the whole thing, in that we all split it. So if there's a song that's Mark's song, we're all sharing in that, but it's kind of one of those things, we all share in it. We're either going to win or we're going to lose together. It's one of those things. So Mark brought in Ricochet. And then I think the second song he brought in then was Finding My Faith. And then, from there, watching events unfold last summer, I had the initial lines to what became Undivided. That was one of the songs that I had done. we were about 4 songs in, and I said, let's do a ballad, because we didn't have a ballad at that point
Right.
for the record. And out of that, the song No Regrets came into play. So that's kind of it. I mean, we all had written stuff prior or had sketches of songs that we had worked on prior. And it was just a good outlet for that. Basically, we would send Dan Reed our lyrics and ideas about what we want the song to be about. He worked on, he's a genius. I mean, just, with the time frame, he's in Prague, we're in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, we'd get these "you've got mail" messages from him, and we'd open it up and just be blown away. I mean, the demos were.
Did I lose you? You there? Todd? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. There we go. Somehow we locked up. I heard the demos and then we froze.
There we go. Yeah. So, the demos, we would get those back from Dan Reed almost daily. But yeah, the writing process was about 6 weeks to get the songs put together. But, everybody in the project, that was one of the things that really blew me away was the work ethic, man, of these guys. They're just all machines. I mean, they all are. And that's what makes them successful.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, I mean, they are, nothing but the best. But that's one of the things that, blew me away. Being in business, and also being a musician, I'm in that environment too, but I just didn't know what the expectations were going to be entering into it. And all I could say is these guys were, every one of them, even, Derek Sherinian played a few tracks, played keyboards on a few tracks, and was like, we sent him 3 songs, and I think we sent him his stuff on a Saturday, and by Monday he had the tracks back to us. So it was just, yeah. It was a really, really great process.
So you guys have all been around for a while and have definitely done the traditional in the studio bouncing things off each other. How do you feel? I mean, obviously it differs in a way, but how do you feel the vibe differs, or do you feel the vibe differs at all from doing it electronically, like you putting your part down and sending it somewhere else?
Yeah. So for me, I have a studio here that I can do drum tracks and I could do demos and things like that. But for this record, I actually did go to a studio and track everything in the studio with a really good mix engineer who's also a drummer and knows how to get really good drum sounds and things like that. That was important. Mm-hmm. So I still had that going. I still had that vibe going on, working with an engineer. No one else was in the room when I was doing that.
Right.
But, bouncing tracks around the world and collaborating on it, you have to be able to communicate. And I don't think it's that different. I really don't. I don't think it's that different. If you can communicate and get your point across in front of people or across the computer or across, you either can communicate or you can't. And, Dan and I, later in the process, we worked on a couple of the songs together in terms of adding pieces to them that, they weren't there in the demo. And as we started listening to the song, I said, well, let's add some vocals here where there aren't any. And we did those sorts of things. But yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of this type of technology. We did a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of, telephone calls as well. And just, got it done. I mean, we were really moving fast because the one thing too, it was just, this was at the height of the pandemic that we were starting this. Nobody knew what was going on. We're reading in the papers and watching the news and everything's changing day to day. And I'm trying to make decisions, and people are looking at me like, why are you moving at breakneck speed on this? I'm like, wow, we just don't know. Is this going to slip away? Is it,
right?
Are these tracks never going to be heard, and so there was just a lot of things going through, my head at that time.
Did you find writing this record, as like you said, in the height of the pandemic, cathartic in a sort of way?
No. It was one of those things where everything was kind of pieced together between Mark's lyrics, my lyrics. And it was just, it was really more of an assembly line. It was kind of like how Motown would have done it, where
Right.
they brought in musicians and laid out, pieces. I didn't really get a feel for what the record was going to really sound like until it was late stages in the record. I mean, it was really even the final mixes that were kind of coming in. I was like, okay, I was still a little unnerved at that point, but the record really took shape once we sent the masters. We actually used Abbey Road for the mastering on
Oh,
it.
wow.
Had a really great mix engineer or mastering engineer there, and that's when the tracks just really opened up. And so that process was critical. But overall, it's just been a tremendously great experience all the way around. Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's interesting how, I mean, I have a lot of recording engineer experience in my past, but it's interesting how the mastering can take everything to the next step and make it different from what you had imagined.
Yeah. I mean, and, I was I'm old school in that, okay, so we got to do the car stereo test. No matter
Right.
what it sounds like, it's got to sound great in a car stereo.
Right.
And so, I was always conveying that back to people throughout the process. And, I'm fortunate that I have a couple of cars that have decent stereos in, but I also have some that are just stock radios. And I'm like, it's got to sound great on a stock radio,
right?
And yeah, and no frills. And if it doesn't sound good there, we got to go back and finesse it a bit. But yeah, we were fortunate enough to be able to work with Abbey Road and a great engineer there. And Simon Gibson was the engineer. But we did a couple passes through the mastering and came back and boosted bass a little bit on the second round of mastering.
Right.
So yeah, I'm very pleased. We're actually doing, as well as streaming streaming services for the release. We're also doing physical CDs. We're also doing vinyl, which is coming back in popularity. So we're about 4 or 5 months out into the order process on that. All the vinyl production facilities are so backlogged. So we're a few months away from receiving those. But I'm excited to get those in our hands because I just can't wait to check them out.
So now that you said you're putting it out as a full length, the kids like my son's age, they have no interest in full records anymore. They're doing like the downloads. Do you still put as much time and effort into the sequencing? Because I think that's an art, right?
It is.
A lost art, maybe.
It's funny. Yeah. So, again, some of the decisions, and it's kind of funny, like everybody's been involved with the process, and I share all the work as we move forward. But the sequencing kind of fell on my shoulders, and so I picked the sequence of the record, threw it out there, and elicited some response. And there's little things that I didn't pick up until late in the stage, like I'm listening to it in my car. I think it's a great record to cruise to. Right. It just is. And there were some things that I picked up in the sequencing that accidentally, oh, well, that really works well together with that, and just kind of, little things. It was cool to see that come together. But yeah, we went into this more so from an album standpoint.
Right.
A collection of songs written at the height of the pandemic about what we were feeling through the pandemic. Also, it was designed to elicit positive messaging to people that were people that were hurting, people that were, feeling it. Our initial thoughts were we were going to get this out in 2020, and we were moving fast to try and make that happen. And just because of various schedules and different things, it just didn't happen. So, that was really where we were at in the beginning, and what was behind the songs, the messaging and things like that. But we did put a lot of effort into the release. Here's a copy of Lockdown Diaries. Nice. That'll be out next month. But we also went as far as, just there's a lot of little, and I don't want to reveal all of it here, but there's a lot of little things that went into the artwork. It's old school in the fact that you get something, you look at it. Here's the lyrics. Here's the nuggets, the hidden things that are inside it as well.
I miss that. I'm old school as well, and I remember going to like the record store on Tuesdays and buying the record and running home and listening to it the way it was supposed to be listened to, and reading where it was recorded and reading the lyrics and who you thanked, and that was the whole process.
Yeah. So we're giving that back,
That's
on this
awesome.
release. And what we're going to do is, for the digital downloads, there'll be a PDF that they'll be able to download of the artwork and that sort of thing. We'll make that available.
Nice.
So we had a really great person work with us on it, a friend of the family, Renee Reeser Creative, did all the album design and artwork and stuff. So yeah, we're really pleased with how
That's awesome.
piece has turned out as well.
So I know you guys are all in different places and all in other different projects. Is there any plans to take this out on the road?
Good question. So as far as the six of us, the core players getting together and never doing a show together, likelihood of that is probably never going to happen.
Right.
You may see some of us work together in different things. We all welcome the opportunities to guest, to share the stage, that sort of thing. And I think the doors are open. That may happen. I think everyone, and I can't speak for everyone, but I know like Greg Smith is just incredibly busy. He's a machine. I watched him work. He was the busiest. He gets the busiest man in music award for the working during the pandemic. He managed to stay busy. The entire pandemic. And so he's busy with Ted Nugent's projects and other things that he's involved with.
Right.
But like I said, we welcome the opportunity if it exists. The other thing that could happen too would be, and it's going to depend on the reception that the record gets and that sort of thing, would be Mark and myself, Mark, the lead singer, myself, and other people. We could play the project live.
Right.
And that may happen, so we'll see.
Okay, so one more before I let you go. Do you see AD 2020 as a one-off, or is there plans for other records, or is it a wait and see?
That's good. Yeah, that's a good question. So in the initial stages of the planning, we talked about it being a one-off, and I think that's where we went with it. It was designed to be a one-off. Again, I can't speak for everyone involved, but I've had some conversations with different people involved with the project, and I know when we were done recording, some people said to me, "Is that all? Are we finished?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, yeah, I think for this one we are, but I've talked to a few of the people involved in the project, and as of today, there had been some interest in maybe doing something else."
Right.
So one of the things that Bumblefoot had talked to me about, especially, and he's a great guy. He said, you do the first record, people don't really pay attention to it. It's more of a project,
Mm-hmm.
And he said, by the time you do the second one, they take notice a little bit more so, and say, oh, okay, well, this isn't a one-off. There's something else behind it. And by the time you get to the third record, they start to wake up and really pay attention. So that's kind of the goal. If we can do two, if we could do three, we just have to see. We just have to really see what the reception is. From a business standpoint, from a financial standpoint, we have a lot in this, but that doesn't drive us. It's really the music. It's really what the fans want to, if the fans want it, we'll do it, and that's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
But it was a great project. There was no drama in the project.
That's nice.
It was just, we all worked together as a great team, man. And it was just fun.
That's probably what happens when you get a group of pros together, right? As opposed to people who are not working at that caliber.
Yeah, like I said, it just, I have nothing but utmost respect for everybody. If anybody had to be talked off the ledge during this, it was me.
Right.
The whole thing, because I shouldered a lot, and it's just it's a thing where a lot of schedules, just a lot of stuff. And what I would tell people early on in the process, because I'm new to this, I've been in business a long time. I have a really good head for business, and I've been a musician, but I haven't worked at this level. And so what I've told people was, I really don't know what I don't know.
Right.
I got to figure that out. And luckily I had great professors. I had Professor Bumblefoot, Reed, Smith, and I had all these great guys to guide me through this.
That's awesome.
I got a really great education this year.
That's awesome. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, man.
Be
Take
well,
care.
stay
Have a great
safe.
Day.
Good luck with the record.
We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
We'll
Thanks.
see you, man. Yes, be well.